Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host and founder, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. Tim, how you doing, brother?
In fact, I'm not. I was going to say very well, but in fact, I'm drained, and here's why. So I just literally speaking with a business owner. I got off the phone, as you know, Doug, a couple of minutes ago.
Yep.
And this guy spent an hour sharing with me every reason why he had to join the activation method. He's reached a point in his life where his business has started to become quite hollow and empty with the success that he has there. It doesn't land for him. It doesn't mean anything to him. And he spends most of his day worried about what's happening in his marriage because 2 years ago, his wife told him that she no longer loves him. And that's come about partly because for the previous decade or two, he's been so consumed by work, chasing the idea that when he arrives at a certain point professionally, that's when life will become easier. And I asked him, okay, so what might happen for you if nothing changes here? He said, oh, well, that won't happen, will it? I'm like, oh, okay.
Hold on.
Well, I mean, it's the same model of thinking that has guys just ignore the warning signs, right?
Yep.
And this isn't to bash on men. Look, I've been there. I get it. But it's very fresh right now. So anyway, I said, look, but let's just entertain the idea for a second. What might happen if nothing changes here? Pause for a second or two, took a deep breath, and he said, well, Tim, honestly, we'll get divorced. And I think that would send me into a very dark place, a place where I don't want to go, and a place that isn't healthy for me as a father or for me as a man. So, fast forward 20 minutes later or so, we get towards the end of the conversation, share with him how the activation method could help him, fits all of his needs and so forth. And he ends the call, he actually goes to the point of booking the first strategy session, making the payment, and then right at the very last minute, after having a few objections that we were able to talk through because I appreciate his concerns, but once we alleviated all of those, he got to the point of so close to taking action for himself. Quite frankly, that's the only person he's taken action for. He steps away from the line and says, "Look, I've got to speak to my wife about this." At which point, we'd already spoken about this, and I said, look, I totally understand where you're coming from with wanting to speak to your wife. Now, you've got two options. You can either go home to your wife, sit her down. I asked him what his wife's name. I won't share what his wife's name is, actually. Go home, sit your wife down and say, hey, what do you think of this? I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? What do you think? Forcing her in making decisions for him, essentially. Hey, permission.
Yep.
Or you can sit your wife down, hold her by the hand, look her in the eye, and say, look, I'm sorry for the way I've been showing up for the past 2 years. I've not been the husband that you need me to be. I'm sorry for bringing my work home. I'm sorry for ignoring you. I'm sorry for leaving you to raise the kids. I recognize that it's not good enough. And I've made a decision to join a program specifically for married businessmen, showing them how to grow their business without sacrificing the health, the marriage, or the happiness. And I'm committed to being the best man I can be for me, the best father I can be for our kids, the best leader I can be in my business, and the best husband I can be for you. And just leave it there. So you don't have that conversation to get any response from her. It's not acknowledgement. It's not approval. It's just to say, hey, I recognize where I've not been stepping to the line, and here's what here's what I've done about it. Not what I'm gonna do or what I think I should do. Here's what I have done, because there's been many broken promises, as you know. And he responded well to that. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. Like, cool. Well, you've got to take some action right now to be able to have that conversation authentically with a level of commitment inside yourself.
Yeah.
And he stepped away from the line again. His choice, right? His life. It's not mine. And it really I wanted to bring it up in this this short video here because he doesn't realize what he's doing to his wife. He doesn't realize that if his wife has objections to his investment here, it has very little, if anything, to do with the investment he has made. But instead, it's got everything to do with... I'll let you finish that. Everything to do with what? You look like you're jumping in.
Well, we see this so often, and as men, you lead in your business, or are you? Or is this a symptom? I'm guessing for this guy, he drives his business, but perhaps doesn't delegate well at the office. And he comes home and he relegates all his power to his wife. And over time, his wife, or if you're listening to this, your spouse is going to stop trusting you when you're always asking for guidance and permission. Now, it's one thing to have conversations about finances or conversations about how to raise the kids, but there needs to be one alpha, one leader in the family. And guys, if you're not that person, then she has to be. And in most relationships, that's not the way the woman wants it, your spouse. And so this is just, I can almost guarantee, Tim, that if I went into this guy's house and we put cameras and we watched how he interacts with his wife over the last 2 years, since she said probably longer, 5 years that she's been falling out of love with him, that he asks her for permission, guidance on all the things he does. Thinking about doing this at work. What do you think? What do you think about doing this with a house or vacation? Never surprising her and taking her out and taking the lead. And this, joining something like the activation method to save his marriage, that he still has to go back and get permission. That's very, akin to a little boy, right? Asking mom, hey, mom, can I go out and play? Hey, mom, can I have a yogurt, or a cookie? And at that point, that's not, we talk about masculine and feminine energy, and most people understand that, right? And you're giving away your masculine energy, and now your wife, your spouse has to take it on unnaturally. And, she's not going to trust the decisions you're making anymore, because you don't trust them. You have to ask for permission. You have to ask for her guidance. And that puts her in a very scary and vulnerable place.
And the reality is this guy's wife's going to have objections.
Oh, for sure.
Because she doesn't trust that he's going to follow through with this, right? So he's talking about, hey, what do you think of this investment? Clearly coming across uneasy in his own decision-making. She's going to pick up on that. And it's like, hang on a minute. Well, of course not. You're just going to spend more of our money, despite who's earned it, more of our money, and you're not. Do you see? She's never going to be on board.
Well, there's two things here, Tim, also, right? One is she's going to test him, right? And that's what all women will do, is they'll test us guys, right? We all know that. But she's going to test him and push back to see if he's really serious about it, right? Is he really changing, or is this just a fluke? And all the women do this, right? Even though guys that go through the program make huge changes, right? The women are going to poke and prod. And the difference is when the guys go through the program, they're strong and stable in the man that they are, and it doesn't bother them. They're unwavering. But the women are going to test, right? And he's going to flinch and everything when she's pushing. The second thing is, if 2 years ago she said she fell out of love, right? That's a lot for a woman to say. A woman takes a long time to get to that conclusion, right? Now you're spending your money. She's not looking at it that way by this point. She's looking at her money, right? Because she's now calculating, wait a minute, this money's going out. If we divorce or separate, 50% of that's mine or more. And that's a different calculation. And Tim, you and I have had the benefit of talking to a lot of these women who have either planned on exiting the marriage and didn't, right? Or actually did exit, and what was going through their head. And guys, your wife, your spouse, if she tells you that she's out of love, she's been thinking about it for a very long time, especially if you have kids. And, she's made some strategies. She's read some books. She's talked to women. She's probably talked to attorneys already, even if it's not something she's taking action on. This is where you need to show up as a leader, show up as the man, unwavering, clear, I'm going to do this, right? And not only are you going to do this for her now, but even if she left, you need to step up and be the man that you've always needed to be, so you can continue on for the next relationship, or just for your kids, for yourself.
Yeah, because this guy said, look, I need to regain my confidence from the relationship. It's like, no. You've got it. You get to learn how to regain your confidence for you, and then take that into the relationship if you desire, right?
Sure. And
And the key.
it starts with making a decision, right? Being decisive. And if you're just wavering, asking mom for the cookie, can I have a cookie, please, mom? That's not what a man does. And again, I'm not saying, I talk to my wife about big decisions. We make things together, but, she also trusts me to make decisions that are best for our family, right? The decisions on what we need to do. And that's a very difference between being a follower and being a leader. There aren't two leaders, right? Just not, right? There's always going to be an alpha or somebody in there. And so you really need to look at that in your relationship on where you're standing. If you find yourself thinking you're a leader, but your actions aren't saying that, then the people around you are seeing a disconnection and a lack of integrity in your actions versus your words. And it's time to make that change.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway for this is, when your wife gives you objections, really the objection has very little to do with the thing you're talking about.
Yes.
But the deeper thing going on there is the fact that she's not trusting the direction that you are presenting. Maybe it's no direction you're presenting. And she doesn't trust that. She doesn't feel safe in that. Whereas, if you actually become a man of your word, and this starts with, we did a podcast on this, I think this week, becoming a man of your word and honoring that word. And with that, by default, you're going to have direction. She can then start to follow you. But if you don't know where you're going, how can she follow? If you are on the path walking, how can she can't follow a guy that's sat down or stood still. It's just, and at the same time, she's continuing to move.
Yeah.
She's continuing to grow and further her career. And, you almost become the person that she's then pulling at that point.
Honey, should I walk? Honey, should I jog? Should I prance? Should I sit down? What should I do? What should I do? Tell me what you want me to do. It gets ridiculous.
I get the confusion at sometimes because it's like, well, how do I lead and have direction without being a dictator?
Sure.
That's a different conversation.
Completely.
At the same time, it's very easily done and many men are doing it. So I'd really, if you're watching this and you have a tendency to turn to the woman in your life as a sounding board or a confidant to help you make decisions and you wonder why intimacy is starting to decline or there's more arguments than there used to be, then I would really encourage you to examine the level of direction that you're showing up with in your own life. And with that, where are you honoring your word or where are you not honoring your word? So guys, if any of this has resonated with you, head over to thealphareset.com. We can find out more about how we help men maybe in a similar position to you. And until next time, Doug, thank you for your brilliance again, and we'll see you next time.